This is going to be my no BS step 0 to 3 game plan for how you're going to grow your organization to at least $100,000 a month. And step number one actually starts before step 0, and that's with the evaluation of your financial model. I don't know about you, but I do not like to leave anything up to chance. So before I put in any work to anything, I try to see if it's going to be financially viable, right? What I do is I have some benchmark KPIs that I plug everything in just to see if I'm going to be making the amount of money that I feel like I would want to make depending on what type of program that I want to build. Now, keep in mind that all these KPIs are for cold traffic and these are for high ticket offers, right? So if you're running a low ticket offer, these KPI earners are going to be extremely different. But basically, benchmark KPIs for a what's it called? A for cold traffic running into a high ticket offer, 2% click through rate to the link, 15% landing page opt-in rate, appointment show rate 60%, close rate is around 20, right? Now, where we add our own variance is, well, let's change this first because this one is at 5. Where we add our own variance is TAM, so your total addressable market for whatever creator or your organization, and the average order value. So basically, when I'm working with a creator, I'd like to calculate TAM. And the way I calculate TAM is I look at their views per post over the last 12 months and their views per post over the last 6 months. And that gives me like a range of where they're going to sit. And I use view per post instead of total views because when you're looking at total views, that's for every single piece of content that they have live. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're going to get. This just gives me a better viewpoint. So for a creator I worked with the past, his views per post for the last 12 months was around 87,000 views per post. So keeping all the benchmarks the same, and then with an average order value of $3,000, we were projected to make around 93, and that's at top. But for the last 6 months, his viewership did drop to around $27,000 or 27,000 views per post, which puts it at around $30,000. The main thing I really keep track of is number of customers closed because I can actually play around with the average order value. So let's say that I want to make more than $30,000 with this launch. Let's say I want to make $50,000. That means I change my average order value to $5,000. So now when I'm approaching actually creating the offer, I am coming at it from a framework of, okay, I need to find out how I could possibly provide enough value to where a $5,000 offer is valuable if all the KPIs stay the same. Two things to note over here is that number one, you ultimately want to let your market research dictate your average order value or what you charge, right? Because you don't want to force a market to ingest something that they don't want to ingest. But I find it's a lot easier to sway people towards what I would prefer if I'm coming to them from a certain point of view. Second thing to keep in mind is that these benchmark KPIs are for cold traffic, and if you're working with a warm creator, even the slightest variance can dramatically change these numbers right here. So let's say, for example, your creator has their audience just likes them a lot, and we have a 5% conversion, right, or a link click through rate, and everything else stays the same, right? We just change our total contract value to $121,000 opposed to just a measly 50K. Right. So I like to do the math first because it's okay for me to be wrong on the math, but it's not okay for me to approach any situation without a game plan. So after I played around with the financial model and I kind of figure out the general average order value I want to place or I would like to guide things to, I then move on to stage 0, which is the market research. Now there's two. Where's my camera, buddy? This thing's still rolling. Whatever. Okay. So there's two things that I pay attention to, or I use for what's it called, market research. But during my market research, or stage zero, my goal is deep market research and MVO, which stands for most viable offer. And I'll get to that in a second. So the first thing I use is ChatGPT. As you can see right here, it's not enough to just ask ChatGPT to perform market research. You have to teach ChatGPT how to perform market research. You actually have to teach it, right? So first thing you do, you're going to insert this exact prompt and you attach it to research documents. These are internal documents that I hold within my company. You can see kind of like an example of them. Sorry, you're not going to get that because you don't work at my company. So the prompt is, I'm going to send you 2 documents that teach you how to do deep research. Please analyze them and let me know your thoughts, right? I will guide you towards the right direction on how I got these documents. Pretty much all these documents are inspired by somebody named that goes by the name of Mark Builds Brands on YouTube. Great guy, really good at code research. I can't sit here and act like I came up with any of these documents. Most of these are for prompting AI to run deep research, or it's coming from Mark Builds Brands. So if you want these documents, go ahead and check them out. But I kind of adjusted them to fit my needs. So once it spits out whatever it needs to spit out, next prompt is ask ChatGPT to make you a prompt for deep research. Use the exact words. Great. Now that you properly understand how to conduct deep research, I want you to create a full prompt for OpenAI's new tool called Deep Research. I actually conduct this research for my enter your niche. Please be specific as possible here in order to get the best quality result. Please include you want deep research to complete all of the research found in the doc as well, and it should be a minimum of 6 pages worth of research. And what's going to happen is ChatGPT is going to do just that, and it's going to give you a 6-page research document. Hopefully, you can see this, of just straight knowledge about your very specific niche. And it's really freaking quite amazing. Actually, you can see how deep it is. You can see that's the start, and it just keep going and going and going and going and going. But we do not stop there. Now you take that, take the prompt that it generates for you, and then you paste it in, and it's going to give you that outline. Then when it's done with the deep research, you're going to enter this prompt: amazing work that you have properly completed the research I portion. I want you to please complete this avatar sheet template. Once again, internal document, which just teaches ChatGPT how to create an avatar for your market. After it's done with that, do the same thing, but now you're going to prompt it to create an offer. And again, another internal document that teaches ChatGPT how to create a good offer, and it teaches it about the levels of sophistication within the market and things of that nature, right? So that's the ChatGPT side, right? Second side is going to be what I like to call the Beehive method. So the Beehive method can be put into place when you have a closed off community or an email list or anything like that. And that's just leveraging the use of Typeform and a lead magnet. So basically, you're going to attach a lead. It's self-explanatory. You're going to attach a lead magnet to a Typeform to be able to collect survey data on your audience, right? And then you're going to use that data moving forward. So for the lead magnet side, you don't just slap something together. This should be something that your audience genuinely wants, and then that will really help them out. For Typeform, how you frame your Typeform is the most important thing. What I mean by framing is you don't want to just drop it off and say, hey, here's a survey, fill it out. You want to position it, and you always want to position it for the next step to come. So you kind of wanted it to be like a leading line. So the way I like to position it is like, hey, I'm working on something big for you guys, but I want to make sure I do this right. So I just need to ask you guys a couple of questions so I make sure that I'm able to build out the best product for you guys, right? And you keep it very ambiguous, and you build that mystery, which can help with a little hype later on, and blah 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 blah. But now you framed it as like, hey, just instead of being it framed as, hey, just fill out the survey, it's framed as, hey, I want to help you guys out, but I want to make sure I do this right. And in order to do this right, I need to learn about what you guys want. Secondly, should not be more than 5 to 10 questions. People are going to get bored. Ultimately, you want this to be as low friction as possible so people actually fill it out. Simply because we're not really collecting anything except for the data itself. type of questions you want to ask. Don't just copy and paste. Actually think for yourself. But these are some of the questions you want to ask. Who they are, of course. You want to know their age, location, blah blah blah, basic demographics. I also have an internal document for what a dream avatar looks like, but you can also couple that with the dream avatar created by ChatGPT. But then you ask what their goals are within the niche, biggest thing stopping them from achieving their goal, how much they would be willing to invest for the solution, what would it mean for them if that problem was solved, what would put them off, I forgot an F, off from a potential solution, blah, 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 blah. Right. So you're really just collecting a whole lot of data from your audience. Once you have both of these sides completed, or if you don't have a closed off community, once you have this side completed, what you do is you use the combined market data to create a most viable offer. So most viable offer is just a temporary offer that you have in place that you believe is going to entice the that's going to influence the throughput into your funnel as much as possible. And the reason why I say that you believe is because ultimately everything is theory until put against the hard shell of reality, right? And the way you come up with a MVP is like you obviously have your, by the time you filled out both of these, or you connected both of these sides, you should have a good understanding of who your audience is, and that's your dream avatar, right? You should also have a good understanding of what they're trying to achieve, right? Now, your offer just needs to be the bridge between these 2 points, and you need to frame it in a way that would entice your audience to walk your bridge over the other bridges that are out there. So other solutions, right? That's just me giving you a brief overview of how to do that. Once all of that is done, stage 1 finally begins. And this is when we can start actually collecting money. Goals for stage 1 are actually to get a proof of concept, build trust with your creator or your audience, or however, whether you're the operator or the actual creator trying to run it by himself. Collect market data. Market data is always going to be king, because the quality of your product depends on the quality of your market data, and the quality of your product is really important if your long-term goal is to really build out an information company, right? Secondly, or thirdly, or whatever, phase 1 is really to collect testimonials as well, and then to also find actual KPIs. Because if you remember on the financial model, the KPIs that I run with at first are benchmark KPIs for cold traffic. And the reason why I use benchmark KPIs for cold traffic is because it's extremely hard to have benchmark KPIs for warm traffic, because it varies from creator to creator, right? Now, when we're actually releasing the product, we would preferably like to use a private release. And if you see these right here, it's because I covered the creator and anything that might reveal who he or she is, simply just to stay within the confines of an NDA. But we'd preferably like to use a private release for stage 1 if we can. Reason why is because we can frame it as this test and want to understand it, and it will allow us to collect all of this without just putting it out in the public where it's open to more scrutiny. In a private community, you have your most loyal fan base, which means that you will have the least amount of scrutiny and the largest margin of error while you're trying to get things right. And these will be the people that are most likely to actually convert. If you can't just do everything off of a private community, then you can use the combination of private community plus YouTube. But preferably, if you can, stick with a private community, right? So low ticket community escalation, or NVIDIA CTA, depending on where you're coming from, and it goes into a main funnel landing page. Right now, you see a landing page. This is not one that I built. This is just one that I scrubbed from somewhere, so I don't really care if you guys see it. Basic landing page view. You have VSL, Calendly attached with a type form, of course, and testimonials. I'll go down before I go to the left. What's it called? Landing page opt-in button takes them to a Typeform survey. Typeform main purpose is to own the traffic, collect name and email, frame audience properly. For four-figure investment, you want to introduce and disqualify leads with low conversion probability. When you're creating a type form, it's important to add friction and disqualifiers, right? Friction and disqualifiers is basically going to drive out all the people who would have had the lowest probability of converting, which once you're on stage one, you shouldn't have that much of a built-out sales staff. You really don't need it for the size, because this is just a test. Um, you don't want to shoot them over what's it called, unqualified leads, especially if they're not just ready to just really hammer them. So if they're qualified for a high ticket, then they get put into the Calendly. They can only set a call it within a 48-hour time frame. That's if they're US based, or that's also, there's so much nuance here. It also depends on where the majority of their audience is located. Because if they have a worldwide audience, by setting a 48 time frame, you're going to cut off like a lot of the people that are just spread across the world because of time zones. But that's why I say a lot of most of everything is nuanced, right? I'm just giving you the base outline, but it really just depends on your situation and how you're where most of your audience is held and things of that nature. Which, yeah, I'm just giving you what I'm running right now, but keep in mind that a lot of these things are going to be extremely nuanced. Immediately after the call is booked, confirmation text, thank you email pre-handles objections in an embedded video. I'll learn this from Jeremy Haynes, right? You want to pre-handle objections. You want to give out even more information before the call is booked, because when we're looking at the conviction pyramid of how people go from least likely to buy to ready to just pull out their wallet and give it to you, the thing that really changes that where they're sit is the amount of information that they have, their exposure to you or your entity or your company or whatever, and the amount of objections that have been handled for them. Now you can wait until the sales call to handle all those objections and do all that, or you can just shoot them over a whole bunch of information so that they have all that stuff pre-handled, right? Because before somebody's going to make a four-figure investment, they're going to do their research. You can either provide them all the information they need to do their research, or you can let them wander off and do their research on their own. I like to provide the research for myself because it allows me to maintain a deeper level of control over my potential lead or client. But that's me, and I learned that from Jeremy Haynes. Remember, text the email morning of call. Remember, Ryan email has another video answering any questions leads might have. Leads are always going. This is just reiterating what I just say. And then close on sales call, right? So that's basically the funnel, right? Now, offer overview. Keep in mind, this is extremely nuanced. For the offer that is being ran right here, high ticket offers structure, 90-day program. I don't know why it just says 90. It's 90-day program. Cohort of 10 to 30 for stage one. Want to charge at least $3,000, but we'll let the market research dictate price point. Need to connect market research to figure out value proposition. By this time, you should already have done that. I don't know why I left that on there. What does this delivery look like for your creator or you? 12 total lessons spread across 90-day period. One live class per week. 1 to 3 hours per class. We are exchanging 1 to 3 hours per week for 10 to 30K per month. And the reason why I say that, and the reason why the spread is 10 to 30, is because if you remember back on my financial model, I'll even show you guys live. This is why the financial model is so important. Depending on where TAM actually lands, whether it's the 12 month, closer to the 12-month aggregate or the 6-month aggregate, that changes everything, right? So you see a 12-month aggregate was 30, 6-month aggregate was 10. So that's where that spread comes from. And that's why I can't stress enough, do your financial model first, because it makes everything else so much easier. And you can actually operate from math instead of just guessing things. If we go stage 2, right? Goal for stage 2 is extend to max bandwidth. So I found that most creators only really want to extend 10 to 15 hours per week on a coaching offer. They kind of don't like doing this all day. Yeah. And then we introduced a low ticket product here. Once again, this is nuanced. For this specific situation, we decided to introduce the low ticket product at this point because we wanted to collect the market data, right, to be able to build out a proper, good low ticket offer. But let's say, for example, this was a creator that already had released some programs before, and they had like a library of different courses that they have pre-existing. What I would do is I would repackage all those pre-existing courses into the low ticket program and then release that first. That's why I said there's so much nuance here. So it's hard for me to just like sit here and say this is exactly what you do because there's nuance. For stage two, once again, we would use either or, right? Still being funneled, right? Everything on this side stays the same except for throughput, right? Cohort of 75 at this point is what we would be shooting for. And then we would restructure it to where cohort of 75 divided into 5 classes of 15, one live class per week per class, blah, blah, blah. We would exchange 5 to 15 hours per week for $75,000 per month. And then everything else stays the same, right? The only difference here is that instead of just throwing away our unqualified lead, we actually funnel them down into a low ticket community, right? Once again, these are just snatches, so I don't really care if y'all see who this is, right? These are not my creators, right? Low ticket community. Advantage of this, they're going to be nurtured in the low ticket community. 1 hour live session per week serves as a webinar, right? And then they are upsold into the high ticket funnel. Everything else stays the same, right? Once you have this structure, this first stage structured down, it's kind of like that baseline that everything else is built off of. So a lot of these things here stay the same. We just use different things to scale, right? So at stage 3, we would pretty much push it to what I believe the potential is. We would introduce retargeting campaigns and then optimize content for max throughput into the funnel. So now we run both internal and external or private and open releases, right? You can see that now, since we have a low ticket community, a private release would be in the low ticket community as well. We would use waiting lists because we are using cohorts because that's just the best method, especially if you're trying to stay time constrained. Main funnel remains exactly the same. Offer structure remains exactly the same. It's just the cohort is now at 150 instead of 75, and we would exchange 10 to 30 hours per week for $150,000 per month. Where the variance happens is when we start introducing retargeting campaigns. So not only in the description will we have the link to the main funnel, we would also have a link to a free/loss leader, all right, which is going to put them in an email marketing campaign to where they're going to be constantly being upsold. Of course, we would focus on value, right, and reframing them and providing as much context as information to increase the likelihood that they convert. If they go through the whole entire email marketing campaign and they don't convert, then they are contacted by a setter. If they don't convert, after a setter contacts them, we take them off the email list because we don't want to pay for leads that are not converting. The only other variance would be over here for their content strategy. We would implement a flywheel content system, right? This is specifically for long form, because I like creators that make a long form content more than anything else. Implementation for flywheel content system, make content that sits at each stage of the consumer awareness level. Each video should lead to another video lower in the pyramid. An audience, once audience at the bottom of the pyramid, link to a main funnel, blah, blah, blah. Now, what I mean by pyramid is this, right? The level of awareness, right? So we have top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, right? At the top, we have the unaware people. We have problem aware, solution aware, product aware, most aware, ready to buy, right? So when you're implementing a flywheel content system, right, you're positioning your content to where it naturally just funnels people down to their lower level. So let's say, for example, you're unaware. This is really good with biz op niches, right? Because anytime you see somebody posting lifestyle content, that's their top of funnel content, right? So, oh, how point of view 19-year-old millionaire in Dubai. That's top of funnel content, right? So that's their top of funnel content because that's going to attract the most amount of viewers, right? And then the question you're going to start asking yourself, well, this dude's 19 years old. How come? How is he able to be in Dubai driving these Lamborghinis and blah 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 blah, right? So now they're problem aware, right? They're problem aware because now they understand that there's something wrong, right? Because they're comparing themselves, because this is what naturally happens, right? They're comparing themselves to the creator, and they're like, there's something wrong here because they have this and that, and they're either my barely older than me, younger than me, or at the same age as me, and I don't have those things, right? So now they're aware of their problem. That's where you move to middle of funnel content. Now you introduce a solution. That's the content to where it's like they're like, oh, hey, I'm able to afford this amazing lifestyle because of XYZ business model that I'm running. Right? Insert any biz op niche, whether it be um, growth operating, SMMA, stocks, trading, blah, 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 right? I'm able to afford this amazing lifestyle because of blah, 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 blah. So now they're unaware, problem aware, and they're solution aware because they understand that while there's this amazing lifestyle available, the problem is that I'm not able to do that. And the solution that you just introduced is whatever niche that you're in, right? That's when you start moving them further to the bottom of the funnel. Okay, so yeah, I do SMMA, right? That's how I make my millions of dollars, right? And I actually have this passion for teaching others, right? So here's the blueprint to how you're going to start your own SMMA, blah blah blah, right? So that's a YouTube video, right? But that's sitting at the bottom of the funnel. And then they send you a call to action at the end of the video. If you want more in depth or an elevated level of understanding of this specific niche or blah blah blah, I have a course or I have a mentorship program. Are you starting to see that just the general progression down the awareness pyramid, right? So now you're aware that there's this amazing lifestyle. You know there's a problem because you can't get it. You know the solution is this specific business model. You know that this creator with this amazing product lifestyle has a product that can that can help you do that, right? And then a lot of people just sit here for a little bit, but the more of your content that they consume, especially the more top of funnel, the more times you're actually shot through here, right? Until they actually just penetrate through into most aware to where they're just so hungry that they easily just slip into ready to buy. And then once they're ready to buy, bada bing, bada boom, money in your pocket. So this is kind of like more methodical structuring of your content style. Advantage of the flywheel content system used to prioritize the session watch time over everything else. That's something I didn't even bring up. This system boosts session watch time because every video leads into another. That's another strategy. That's another nuanced thing about this content system is that what you do is that whenever with every specific level of awareness, you just link the video to the next level, right? So if you have an unaware video, you would link somebody to a problem aware video, then a product or solution aware video until blah, 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 right? And this does two things. It naturally walks that person through that. It actually does multiple things. It naturally walks that person through the pyramid. It increases your session watch time because they're watching multiple videos back to back to back. And it has the coupled effect that it's training YouTube, because YouTube is a beautiful, beautiful machine. It's training YouTube to that this type of person with all these data points is the type of person that is most inclined to walk through the here. And if you find me more people that are more inclined to walk through here, they will stay on your platform for a longer period of time. And YouTube loves that. So what does YouTube start doing now? It starts pushing your content even more. This right here is such an unstoppable system. It's crazy. But System Watch on YouTube will boost your channel for promoting your product. This is how you achieve negative ROAS. You should know what ROAS is, but in case you don't, that's return on ad spend. Typically, people rave about a 3 or 4 or 5x ROAS, which is where you put it $1 into ads and then you get $5 back. But with this system, you get negative return on ad spend because YouTube pays you while you are simultaneously promoting your content. It's such a beautiful thing. And the person that coined this, right, it was used before him, but the person that really just put a name to it was Iman Gadzhi. So we already know the genius that guy is. No glaze, but yeah. And everything is done properly. You should land yourself with a business that's generating a cool 6 figures a month. So that's it. Now, you can do all of this by yourself, or you can just let me and my team do it for you. The link for my partnership application is always going to be in the description and is going to be in one of my links in my channel page. With that being said, goodbye.